Happy Saturday, hackers. Welcome to Saturday Hacker Day. My name is Taggart, and you can follow me on most places here at MT Taggart. We are doing on this channel security, we're doing programming, sometimes we do some CTFs, but on Saturdays we do blue team defensive work. And I'm really excited about this show. We're going to kind of do it live a little bit for some of what we have planned, but that's going to be good for anybody who's interested in setting up a home lab. This should be really valuable stuff. Now, normally, at the beginning of the show, we'll do some review of this week in cyber news. Not a whole lot going on this week, to be honest with you. Not that anything that is worth kind of a shout out. So we can move right into the main material for today. And, given what we're doing, I think the more time we can give to it, the better. So today we're going to be talking about the security onion. And if you haven't heard of that before, it's totally okay. We're going to start literally from scratch with Security Onion, but it is a Linux distribution that is designed for a lot of defensive work. So the Security Onion kind of bundles all the things you might need as a blue team, a security operations team, kind of into one distribution, and you can configure it depending on how you wanted to deploy it a bunch of different ways. So inside of the Security Onion, you have the ability to create a whole SIM with the Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana stack. Hey, PandaCat Love, thank you so much for this subscription. Really appreciate it. Welcome to the channel. In addition to the SIM level, you also actually have some intrusion detection stuff going on with some Suricata inside of Security Onion. And you also have the ability to do traffic analysis. Right, so you can give Security Onion packet captures. It can also grab packet captures, but you can give it packet captures, and it can analyze them for evil. So there's a lot going on inside of Security Onion, and depending on what you want to do with it, you would configure it differently. We're going to configure it as in evaluation mode, and what that means is basically we're going to configure it with kind of everything, including the kitchen sink, installed so that we can use it as we see fit. That's not how you would really deploy it in production, and you would never install it in one place. You'd have like Security Onion nodes throughout your network, depending on what it was doing, like sniffing for traffic or collecting your logs, whatever it's doing. So we're going to play with it, see what we can do with it, and hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, analyze some malware traffic with it. So let's get started. If you want to follow along at home, let me switch over to our live scene here. If you want to follow along at home, the first thing you're going to want to do is check out the Security Onion. And you can find it here. I'll put it in the chat. That's what actually we're looking at. So we were looking at the brand page, but actually where it's going to send you to download anything is to GitHub, and that's totally fine. So what we're going to do on GitHub is you're going to look at this verify ISO markdown file. And that gives you the ability to download this ISO. Now, if you've never created a virtual machine before, that's okay. We'll walk through it a little bit here. I was trying to do it in Hyper-V, but Hyper-V wasn't cooperating so much, so I'm trying it in VirtualBox, and we'll see how it does. But let's talk about that. So once you have... The thing I want everyone to know about the Security Onion is that it is a chunker. It is a large boy, and what you want to do is give it as much system resources as you possibly can. So this is not an underpowered machine that I'm running on by any stretch of the imagination, but even so, I'm giving it as kind of a lot. So to the tune of 6 cores, 6 virtual cores, and 16 gigs of RAM off of my machine to start, and that's kind of like a baseline, and 200 gigabytes of storage space, because it's beefy. So in VirtualBox, we'll use VirtualBox as an example here. To configure it, what is this? To configure it, what you'd want to do is create a new virtual machine, set up everything that you want, set up your memory size, and if you've never done memory calculations before, if you want to know it basically to however many however many megabytes you want to do. It's not quite this, but you can do like 1024 times 16 to get your gigabytes, because, you know, remember, it's 1024 to get to the next level, not 1000. So if you wanted to, if you were trying to calculate how many gigabytes on this scale, you would just take whatever number you wanted and multiply it by 1024. You create a virtual hard disk, make it large, and then you attach, when you start up the virtual machine, it's going to ask you to attach that ISO, that ISO file that we downloaded from GitHub. How are we doing here? All right, looks like we're rebooting now. Now, I've been experiencing a problem here with Security Onion where it's not setting up a user for me, so I'm not sure if I'm not doing something correctly. But if that's true, I'm going to try one other thing once it's up and running again. Because the way that we use Security Onion is a little bit different than the way you'd use like desktop Linux, right? It has other stuff configured. All right, so it's loading up. That all looks good. The other place that you definitely want to go is the Security Onion documentation, which I'll also throw in the chat. And so this will walk you through the installation. It'll walk you through configuration and how to configure specific hypervisors like VirtualBox on how to do this. So we're here, right? We're in installation and we've just finished that. So we would go to configuration next. But here's the thing. So here's where it says localhost login. I'm going to try to put in the user I thought I created when I did the installation. Yeah, and it's not playing ball. So this is what I was running into before. Now, I have a suspicion that there are other reasons why this is happening. And to test that, I'm going to have to do a little bit of port forwarding with VirtualBox. So I have to try to access this virtual machine in a different way. Let's take a look. We'll close this for the moment. Nope, I don't want to power it down. So let's take a look at our networking for the Security Onion virtual machine and see what we have going on. So go to Settings and Network. And so this one's natted, which is fine. So what that means is that it'll have its own kind of private IP address rather than an IP address on like my home network. And that's exactly what we want, right? We don't want it to talk to, you know, like my home laptop or whatever. So that's fine, but we might want to do something else like port forwarding. And that's what I want. So I want to try to SSH into this machine rather than trying to access it through the direct console, right? And seeing if that authentication method works a little bit better. So to do that, I have to set up some port forward. So the first port forwarding rule I'm going to set up is SSH. It's over TCP, that's correct. The host IP, you can set it up how you want. I'm going to do localhost 127.0.0.1. And the host port, I'm going to call it 2222, just for, you know, whatever reason. The guest IP, I want it to be 0000. I want it to listen on everything for this and set the guest port to 22. So that should, and you could also set the host IP to 0000 here, but you know, that'll also set up listeners for anything else on the network and forward that in, and I don't want that. I don't have to worry about the firewall blocking that. So just listening on localhost for this. So we'll set up that port forward. That should be good. Now to test it, we're going to try this. SSH localhost. Nope. SSH empty taggart at localhost. And give it the port of 2222. Okay, that didn't work. Now that might be because I'm in Windows subsystem for Linux. Let me try it from straight up PowerShell, because I do have SSH here. SSH Taggart at localhost p2222. No. Let me try bringing the virtual machine down and back up. Sometimes you got to do that. So I'll power off the machine, bring it back up. Hey Gizan, we're working on Security Onion today, which is a Linux distribution designed for log collection, to basically be a SIM out of the box, and also it does malware traffic analysis. If we can get it running. Alright, machine's booting back up. I'm striking out here, though. Alright, so now we've got the machine rebooting, and theoretically we have the port forwarding rule. Oh, crap. Wait. Okay, I didn't put in enough 2s. That might have been the problem. Good job, Taggart. Okay, I want to try it from both of these again. No. Well, it's hanging rather than telling me connection refused. That's different. Yeah, this should be absolutely correct. I'll set this to 0000, just in case. Aha! That kicked off a Windows firewall rule. Nope, that's just not working from WSL. And it's just hanging here. Wonderful. I wonder if I'm going to have to do this in Hyper-V, which I had planned for. I actually have the Security Onion here in Hyper-V just in case. The other day I had a problem starting Kali on VirtualBox because of a green turtle logo on the bottom right icons. Hello, green turtle logo. The execution engine is native API. Nested paging is inactive. Execution cap. The paravirtualization interface is KVM. I mean, here's the thing. The machine is booted up, right? I have the machine running. Now that I've changed that rule, let me see if powering the machine down. Yeah. Oh man. Interesting. So it was talking to it. All right. All right. So virtual machine networking is a real special topic. And it's a pain in the ass, to be honest with you. And if we're going to do it in Hyper-V, I have to do it a little bit differently with the virtual switch manager. And I have to set up a new external switch. Or do I? Man, this playlist is killing me. We gotta go. There we go. Okay, so the machine's back up. Let's try this one more time. Yeah. Still nothing. It's just hanging. Now, this is interesting too. Yeah, I'm not going to run that if I don't know what it is. Because the machine is up. Well, let's see. I really wanted to get this running on Hyper-V anyway, because it's going to be more effective. But... oh, is it boot order? Pettycat, are you saying change the boot order? Because we're definitely booted into the hard drive rather than the ISO. It's not even mounted. Oh, okay. Oh, set hypervisor launch type off. Got you. Yeah, so changing the boot order would like if you're defaulting to Pixie or something like that, that would definitely do it. But again, I think we're up. The issue here is networking related, but also it might not be anything because I have no guarantee that this SSH is set up. All right, if Security Onion is being this much of a butthead, we might have to do. Ugh. I really don't want to spin it up on AWS because that's going to be expensive. I'd rather not do that. We have one other thing we can try if we need to. Yeah, you know what? I think we might just do that. All right, here's what we're going to do. Because this thing is being such a pain, we're going to power this off. And it's okay, because then we get to see this from scratch. So, chat, would you prefer that we do the virtual machine in Hyper-V or in VirtualBox? I could do either one. Hyper-V is going to be a little bit more performant, but I think many more of you will do VirtualBox, so I'm not sure which is more relevant to you. Let's do VirtualBox. Here's what we're going to do. There is a way to get Security Onion up and running without using the Security Onion ISO, and I think that's kind of what we want to do here. Instead, we're going to base it off of an Ubuntu machine. So I'm going to blow this away. Yeah, I'm going to blow this away, and we're going to make a new virtual machine, and we're going to make it an Ubuntu machine. And I happen to have an Ubuntu 18.04. I know 20.04 is kind of where we are right now, but let's do it. So we'll call it Security Onion. It's going to be Ubuntu, so Linux version. It's going to be Ubuntu 64-bit. So this is good. Same thing, right? Let me pop up calc real quick. So we're going to do 1024 times 16. 16384, that gives us 16 gigs of RAM. And we're going to create a virtual hard disk. It's going to be large, so I'm going to set it to 200 gigs. Virtual disk VDI is correct for our purposes here. Okay. And then we're going to just fire this up. I guess I don't need Hyper-V open then if you guys aren't interested in it. That's fine. Move over. Okay, you can't see it, but the the VirtualBox window popped up and asked me what ISO do I want to start it with. And I am starting it with my Ubuntu server ISO. Do you need to be precise for the memory? It has to be divisible by 4. But I like doing it that way just because I don't want to guess about how much I've given it. You know what I mean? So we're going to run through the normal Ubuntu installation process here. This shouldn't take too long. And then we'll set this up as a Security Onion device because... oh, where is it? Is it on GitHub? There's specific instructions on how to set this up. Yes. So, installation. There it is. This is what we're going to do. Right? We're going to use git and run the Security Onion setup. But first, we got to set up our Ubuntu server. So, if any of you haven't done Ubuntu server setups in VirtualBox, this will be good. This is also, I will say, not to be too much of a Hyper-V evangelist, but if you are on a Windows machine, here's a cool thing you can do with Hyper-V. Watch this. If I click on Quick Create, it'll just, once this loads, yeah, I can just do this, right? And it'll just go and get it, which I find really helpful, just as an FYI. All right. Do we care about the new installer? Nah, not really. We're not doing anything particularly special. English US. Okay, VirtualBox is giving me an IP address. That's the NATed IP address. That's fine. What I will do is add a second network interface later, because security, that's actually an important point. Security Onion requires 2 network interfaces. One of them is going to be your management interface. This guy is what you SSH into, and it's what's going to host your web servers. The second one is going to be your packet capture interface or your log ingestion interface, okay? So that one is dedicated to that, so you cannot do management on that interface. So when you set up a virtual machine, or if you're doing it on a bare metal server at home, make sure that you have 2 NICs. No proxy, that's fine. Yes. Good, good. I'm not doing anything special with partitioning. Yes. Yes, we're going to install OpenSSH. And do we need to install anything else? No Kubernetes. No Docker. Yeah, we'll install everything else afterward. And we're off to the races. Okay, while this is installing, let's talk a little bit about where we're going to get our malware traffic. So we're talking about network artifacts, okay? We're talking about packet captures. And there is a fantastic site called malwaretrafficanalysis.net in the chat. And this individual has put together all sorts of analyses and samples of malware to experiment with and explore, going all the way back to 2013. Really, really great resource if you want to learn how to look at this stuff and understand, what evil looks like on the wire. And, let's go into 21, for example. You can see we've got there's Quackbot, I think I saw. Yeah, there's Quackbot. Kind of a lot of it, actually. Emotet, if you wanted to check out Emotet. Right, so you have, these are malspam examples. So it's not always network analysis. Sometimes it's other artifacts. So for example, this Cobalt Strike, Quackbot with Cobalt Strike, couple of things. Not only does it give you the PCAPs, but if we look at the malware here, Neurotoxin, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome aboard. It gives you not only, this is the malicious document, this is the maldoc that actually had the malware in it, okay, but it also gives you a VBox starter for analysis. Handy. And then there's actually a write-up of what to look for. How's our installation doing? Getting there. Fast. That might be the fastest Ubuntu server setup I've ever seen. At least for my own setups. That's probably because I gave it 6 cores. Oh, you're welcome. Now, you can do some of this analysis without Security Onion. And if you wanted to do that, what would you want? You could do just you're gonna need Wireshark. Yeah, I'll install the update. I've been waiting for this update to Wireshark because there's this new version of oh, wait a second. Yeah. So I'm just installing the new version of Wireshark. I'm really hoping doing this live doesn't mess with my network connection. Yeah, ask away, Pancat. At the application level, Wireshark is kind of useless. Application meaning like in the OSI model? Absolutely not. It is super useful at the application level. If we're talking about the OSI model, if that's what you mean. Because remember that HTTP is an application, right? That's layer 7 in the OSI model. And you can look at, well, you know what? Let's time out. Let's review the OSI model. Especially anybody who's studying for certifications. This is going to be a big one. Okay. Anybody studying for Security Plus or Network Plus or anything like that? Okay. And by the way, I'm going to give you my mnemonic device that I use to memorize this. It might not work for everybody, but it really worked for me. Please don't nuke the same place again. There are other ones, you can make up your own, but for whatever reason, that one really works for me. Please don't nuke the same place again. Physical data link, network transport session, presentation application. Please do not throw sausage pizza away. Also excellent. So physical, right? That's the electrons going over copper, or fiber, or photons going over fiber if you're in a fiber network. But this is the physical, right? Oh, hey chat. All people seem to need data processing. Yeah, that's a classic. I feel like for me the nuclear option raised the stakes and made me remember it more. I don't know why. That probably doesn't say something great about me, but it's alright. Um, it is more dangerous. So right, that's the physical. Then the data link, this is layer 2. This is machines talking to machines. And so at this level, we're talking, chat, layer 2. What's our identifier at layer 2? For devices on at that layer of the OSI model. Yep. And how do they identify each other? How are packets routed at layer 2? Media access control. There it is, Chad. Very good. Yep. MAC address. Correct. Then we encapsulate it into network. That's internet protocol. Transport session, right? This is your sockets. Presentation is always a little bit funny for that, and then HTTP is the application, or one of the applications, right? And this is mostly, you know, when we are entering commands or interacting, right? This is where we are. So if you're notice the DNS, which Pandacat, that was your question about, that's at the application layer 2, right? It's the final layer of encapsulation that you'd be dealing with for that particular kind of traffic. So if you were talking about which application, your question though about which application or entity is causing DNS queries, kind of a different thing. And actually, I agree with you, Wireshark is going to be less helpful by itself. However, Wireshark or a TCP dump capture from the endpoint along with other information is going to be really helpful. Other information that you might need would be Windows event logs if we're talking about a Windows endpoint, or syslog information from a Linux machine. And the way that you would join them together is by time. So I've definitely done this, where we'll take DNS information, like when did a DNS query happen, and then correlate it with process execution information, or if we have sysmon running, which would be amazing, we'd like sysmon event IDs 3 for network information. That'll give you DNS, actually. It'll give you domain names too anyway. But even without that, right, that's how you would correlate it with a like execution of conhost.exe to see what was called when it was calling out. Yeah. Let's check on our pal here. Still downloading, installing security updates. I burned myself by saying that it was a fast install. Hopefully it won't take too long. Oh, hey, that was it. I just had to look at it, and we're good. Okay. Now, just for my own sanity, because we set up the SSH here, let me set up the port forwarding again to see if that works. Right, and we'll do host IP 127.0.0.1, host port 2222. That's enough twos. The guest IP 0000. Guest port 22. Okay. And we just saw the secure shell server start. So Neurotoxin, why am I doing a port forward? This is why I want to SSH into the machine from my actual terminal, if I can, rather than working with the dumb VirtualBox window, right? That's why I'm doing it. So, of course I can't do it here. But I actually want to see. So The networking for Windows subsystem for Linux is extraordinarily weird. Let's see if I can ping my... Nope. Okay. Well, I was running into this before with, what was I running into it with? I was doing something weird that I had this kind of networking issue with. Oh, it was, I was building something, and I couldn't get network proxying to work. It was right, I was doing Zap automation. That's what it was. Okay, so I can SSH into it from here, though. Yes. And now my PowerShell window has turned into an SSH window. Now this is still up, and that's fine, but I don't really... Whoops, sorry. I don't really care about any of that at the moment. So... Alright, now let's take a look at the instructions for installation, now that we have that. Now we already have Git, so that's fine. We'll just get this address here. And okay. And then cd security onion, and what do we got? SO setup network. Yeah, and presumably we have to be sudo to do that. Yep, sudo bash so setup network. Fine. Sudo bash so setup. So setup. Stop with the... I would like to continue. So here, finally, we're setting up Security Onion. We want to set it up for evaluation. Standalone is a production install. It's a lot heavier, and if you were ever to do a production install of Security Onion this way, make sure that you're doing it basically on bare metal, because it's a lot. But a distributed, right, you will be able to create collector nodes across your network for packet capture, log ingestion, and then, you know, you would set up a single heavy node as a standalone, and that would be your log ingester, right? So if you were to set up a SIM using the Security Onion, SIM, in case we don't know what it is, Security Information and Event Management, Splunk would be an example, QRadar would be another, but in this case we'd be using the ELK stack as our SIM, and you can set that up with a heavy standalone. But for now, we're going to do eval. Right, we have to agree to the Elasticsearch terms because they just changed their license. Crap. Free space on mount point is currently 87 gigs. You need, so apparently I didn't even make it big enough. Alright. Sucks. So, this would be fun. Here's what we're gonna do. This is gonna be a fun lesson. How to resize virtual disks. So, I always forget exactly how to do this. Oh, wait, we can do it. We don't have to do it in the command line anymore? All right, well, let's power off the machine. And then we'll... How much RAM? RAM, I think I'm okay with. Oh, you mean in a production environment, Gromit? A lot. If you were gonna do, if you're talking about for your heavy collector node, you want to be north of 100 gigs. It depends on how much you're ingesting too, to be honest with you. But you think about, let's talk about like an enterprise environment where you're going to be ingesting 10,000s of logs, you know, every minute, if not less. Yeah, it's got to be a lot of memory to keep that in the buffer and save it for processing. So it's that's a capital expense for sure. Now, if you're just doing testing at your home lab, between I've done it with 8, it doesn't work great. 16, I think, is the bottom for it. Okay, so VirtualBox. Oh, yeah. All right, so file, virtual media manager. Oh, man. So cool. Okay, so we'll change that to 400. Now we'll still have to enlarge the partition, which might be interesting. Yeah. So to enlarge the partition, we're going to have to basically mount it with our Ubuntu. Where's the Ubuntu server? So we're going to have to remount. Yeah. So this is going to be an interesting exercise here. So we're going to start this up with the Ubuntu installer and use it to resize the partition. If the boot order is correct, which it should be. Yeah, great. So it's English. I don't want to install though. Ah, man. I need a live disk. Fine. Well, in that case, I will use my Kali ISO. That was stupid. I just restarted it. I will use my Kali ISO to do this job. Do we seriously no longer have like a trial mode? It's all just installs? Alright. Let me see if I can do a quick download of an Ubuntu desktop. That's why I pay for that good internet. All right. Meanwhile, let's see if we can grab some of this. Let's look at this Cobalt Strike PCAP and see if we can see anything interesting there, just for some. Make a new folder here. Cool. So when you install anything from, or when you get anything from Malware Traffic Analysis, it's going to be in a zipped folder. Right, great. It's just the PCAP, so I'm going to extract it. It's going to ask for a password, or it should. Yes. The password is infected, which it tells you on the About page. All right, let's check this out. So here's our packet capture. When we're looking at a packet capture raw, and this is actually a good thing to do before you even send something to Security Onion, what are some things that you might look at before just like reading packets? Because that's kind of hard to do. So what are some things that you might think about doing with Wireshark before just reading raw packets? What other tools could we use? You can filter, but we don't know what to filter for yet. Conversations, grommet, say more. I like starting here in the statistics menu. I want the big picture of what's going on. So one thing that I might start with is conversations, IPv4 statistics to see destinations and ports. So yeah, let's take a look at conversations. And we're looking at IP4 as our layer. And we can start sorting by things like bytes, right? Look at that. That's a massive jump from first place to second place, right? To see what was going on from 10.2 to whatever this is, 23.67.210.113. And by the way, now we have an artifact, right? We have an IP address. Where might we throw that IP address? I might throw it at virus total. (2367.210.113). Okay, so nothing there, so that might be legit. Or just not detected. Now this is quantity, it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's a lot. And that much over TCP might indicate that there's a file transfer as well. So something to think about. So we have some IPs that we can check out, right? We can try, let's try that second level one, 138.201. 149.51. 149.51, right? Ooh! All right, so starting to get somewhere. So even just with that basic analysis, right? Well, that's not enough, but even with that basic analysis, we're starting to find something. We can also look at packet lengths. That's less, unless you really know what you're looking at, that's less enlightening. Resolved addresses to see what kind of devices. That's fun. Let's take a look at IP4 statistics and look at destinations and ports. This is neat because you can see that we're going to see some UDP and TCP. port 995, port 443, port 80, 993, so that's mail, right? A lot of HTTPS. So now we start to have a picture of what's going on. And then another thing that I like to do is just real quick to see what we find in export objects in HTTP. See if there's anything up here that is identifiable as downloadable. So that's interesting, right? We've got a couple of HTML files. This .ico, which is, you know, maybe something, maybe not. Certificate stapling, maybe not as concerning. These cabs, what's that about, right? So starting to look at things. This GIF might have something evil in it. We can see by clicking on it and then, you know, following HTTP stream. So anybody see anything interesting? I know the text is a little small. I don't think I can zoom this in. But, so this is theoretically a GIF, but the response, the first 2 bytes are MZ. And it says this program cannot be run in DOS mode. This ain't no GIF. This is a Windows executable. And the MZ are the 2 bytes that you would see at the beginning of a portable executable, a PE file for Windows. So we don't know what this thing does, but we know it's no GIF. And, you know, we could extract this and see if it's, see what it's doing. So already, we're starting to have some... And by the way, what was that? 192.185.164.99. So we might want to check that at VirusTotal too. 192.184. My IP address memory is failing me today. 164.99. Really? I got news for you, VirusTotal. Wait, 192.185. Uh-oh. Hey, we've got Ubuntu. Let's see if we can fix our security onion installation. Storage. All right. Off we go. What is this? The DMCA free playlists on Spotify are a little hit and miss. This is actually good because this is the G-parted interface to do this exact thing that I'm trying to do is much nicer. I'm glad you're liking the music. Yeah, I'm a shameless synthwave fan. It's the color scheme of the stream. Come on, Ubuntu. You can do it. Come on. How many desktop Linux users do we have in the chat today? Somebody asked in a YouTube comment a couple days ago, like, how do you learn stuff? And one of the recommendations that I said was bite the bullet and use desktop Linux if you can get away with it. I'm all self-taught. I have an English degree, okay? But one of the things that really kind of got me out of just like being good with computers and becoming like proficient with a lot of the technical stuff is moving away from using Windows on the desktop to using Linux and forcing myself to like get comfortable with the command line, understand what was going on at the network stack, things like that. Neurotoxin. So I am a security engineer working mainly on the SIM side. How do I move from that into threat hunting? You have the Sec Plus, would you recommend? Oh, okay. So you're well situated for one thing. As a security engineer, especially working on the SIM side, I mean, dang, you know how to build detections, and you know kind of what's coming in and what looks weird and what doesn't. So you're already in incredibly good shape. To start moving into threat hunting in terms of training, I think the place where you may want to build some skills, and it's honestly a place where I'm still building skills, is on endpoint, like system internals. So understanding what is malware going to do, what are attackers going to do, not just on the network, but that's going to be good too, but also on the endpoint. So what does it look like when somebody's trying to do privilege escalation in Windows, right? What sort of events happen there, right? With sysmon on and with sysmon off, depending on if you don't have sysmon in your environment. This thing died. So in terms of where to go next, I will say there's a lot of good free training out there. Hang out here, we'll do some threat hunting. But if you have a little bit of either organizational money to get some training, or something you want to pay for yourself, so I'm gonna plug Black Hills InfoSec. So Black Hills are an independent security firm. They'll do penetration testing, they'll do security assessments, but they also have training sessions. And their training is amazing. One of the I've done their threat hunting training, and it was actually where I learned how to do Security Onion, now that I think about it. Yeah, Chris, I think it was Chris Brenton, did just a 6-hour course on threat hunting. He's like the compressed version of the multi-day training that he did last year at Wild West Hackin' Fest, and it was amazing. But I mean, look at these things. I'm in this one in a couple of weeks, Breaching the Cloud, to do cloud pen testing. So really, really exciting stuff here, and they're really reasonably priced. These are not SANS courses, okay? I have never been able to afford a SANS course. So they're great if you can afford them, but they're priced for corporations to pay for them, not for individuals. This stuff is like $495, so it's not nothing, but it's under $1,000, and what you get is really, really solid. I would also, for blue team stuff, I think the best that I've found is the eLearn Security, not the certifications, but actually it's the INE. Let me see if I can quick show you what this looks like. So INE is like, I think it's a discount right now, but you pay for like $1,200 a month maximum, and you get access to their whole suite of course materials. And that sounds like a lot of money, but what you get is really, really amazing. So for example, if I go to my active courses here, check it out. threat hunting, hunting in the endpoint and endpoint analysis, hunting the network and network analysis. So we look at some of these. You know, I won't show you the material because it's copyrighted, but you can see that the topics are really, really exactly on point, right? Look at using Wireshark, packet hunting. What we were just doing, basically, was stuff that I had practiced in these courses. NetWitness, looking for web shells. Really, really excellent. So I definitely recommend it. And what's cool is, you know, you sign up for this, you'll also get a discount on your first certification if you go for certification through eLearn Security. And if you're interested in certs, this is a really kind of, it's a newer player than offensive security or certainly than SANS, but they're really solid. So I actually just last weekend went through I'm still waiting on the results, but I just went through the web app pen testing certification. And it was intense. Really, really recommend it. And they have one, they're the only ones I know of other than SANS that have a threat hunting cert. So if you want to do it, like, this is where to do it. The exam vouchers without a discount are $400 a pop. So again, it's not nothing, but even the training without this certification is really, really rock solid. And there are ways, I think a lot of times, especially folks who are trying to break into the industry, get really hung up on certs. And I'm not going to lie, certifications can be really helpful, but there are ways of talking about your experience and your, you know, personal education without that credential that can still seem really impressive to employers, to the right employers, right? There are going to be hiring managers where it's like, oh, you need the OSCP or get out. That's going to be true. Or if you're doing, you know, DoD contracting, there are certain certifications that you need to have in order to get those jobs. But check out eLearn Security. If you have a little bit of cash to spend on your personal training, I think it's a really solid value for money. If that's a really big ask for you, that $1,200 a month, or even I think if it's discounted, it's like $750. If that's still a big ask, if your budget is a little bit lower, I would actually recommend pentesteracademy.com. So with Pentester Academy, you can see that their courses, yes, it's called Pentester, but attacking and defending Active Directory, right? And they have defensive tools in here, right? Windows Forensics, WinDBG if you want to do malware analysis. So this one's like $249 a year, and you get access to not only the videos, but also to the attack defense labs. And we'll actually do some attack defense labs on this channel. I asked the founder of Pentester Academy if it's cool to do that stuff on Twitch, and he said, yes, go for it. So we will be doing some of that later. Okay, this just crashed, so we're gonna reboot this. We're into hour 2 and we've yet to boot up Security Onion, so not so much a great win, but good info going on today. I guess the big lesson here is if you want to do Security Onion, be prepared to invest some time into it, because setting it up isn't always the easiest. I've been more successful with it in the past. I don't know if there's something up with this version, or maybe me trying to do it straight on Linux or on a Windows host rather than straight. That's concerning. It's just freezing like that. Well, Boy, I'm striking out here. Now I'm just curious. Can we do it with AWS? God, I don't want to, but if I have to, I will. That's not right. Oh, it'll be quicker for sure. But it also costs money. You know? There's a free trial. It's 15 cents an hour. I mean, okay. I haven't spun anything up yet. If we have to. Still gonna call that a backup plan. Ugh. You know what would be just quicker, honestly, is blowing this away and redoing it. Because this was all about resizing the partition. Try to get this done as fast as I can. If anybody else has any questions, you know, about security, career moves, things like that, keep them coming. Happy to do some Q&A while we're working on this. So big. That's awesome. You're going for your Sec Plus. It's a great entry point. When I made the decision to switch from being a teacher to being a security professional, well, teacher, I was a director of technology in schools, but from being an educator to doing information security full time, I basically did like a year of cramming and doing kind of cert hunting, and the two first ones that I did, right, were the Security Plus and then the CISSP. And the Security Plus was a great first certification to do. Nope, that's the wrong thing. I want 1804 live server. There we go. Yeah. Keep in mind that my career track is not, you know, the recommended way to do this, and it's not going to be the same for everybody. So I started my professional career, right, in IT when I was 22. I'm 34. I started in education, K-12 education. I was doing, like, I was the IT director for schools, okay? So I had to be a system administrator. I had to be a network engineer, and all those things. That gave me the opportunity to get exposed to like all of IT at once, which was very stressful, but also really, really a great preparation. I do believe that getting some operational experience before doing security is really valuable, just because you will understand a lot more of the fundamental technologies that way, rather than just jumping in, right? You'll have an understanding of networking, you'll have an understanding of operating system fundamentals, all of that kind of stuff. And by the way, especially for if you're thinking this way, you'll understand where engineers and ops people cut corners, and you'll understand like where the weaknesses might be from a security standpoint. Really, really good perspective to have. How long did I study for the CISSP? Oh my god. I mean, it was basically like, let's see. I started studying for the Security Plus in November of 2018, and I got it in like, it couldn't have been more than a month that I studied for the Security Plus, but it was a month plus like a decade of prior experience, you know what I mean? So I had to learn a lot more of like token ring networks, things like that, all that kind of weird stuff that they make you learn that's not used anymore. And then for the CISSP, it was some months after that, and like I would say 3-4 months of serious studying for the CISSP. And here's the trick with studying for the CISSP: it is not really about technical knowledge. I mean, it is. Like, you got to know your stuff. But that's when you get questions wrong on the CISSP, it's not going to be because of your technical understanding, probably, if your foundation is solid. Where the CISSP trips people up is strategic thinking. Because the question you always have to ask yourself is, what is the right move for the organization at that point? What do I have to do to maintain the confidentiality, integrity, availability of services and information for the organization? So a lot of times, like, the right answer is alert management, right? Like, that might be the first thing that you have to do, if that's the way the question is phrased. Or you have to make that balance between, you know, if I lock everything down, right? If I bring a machine off the network because I'm suspicious of it, and it's a critical system, how many more people are going to get impacted by that because I was suspicious of something? You know, I think a lot of times, I will say, definitely when I started, like, I was, as a security puppy, like, everything was suspicious. Like, oh, we got to go after this, we got to go after this. Nah, not necessarily. Chill for a second, right? It might not be suspicious, one thing, because you don't know what's normal yet. But also, you have to weigh those demands against each other. One thing I've also learned is sometimes when you're talking about incident response, sometimes immediate containment, depending on what it is, isn't always the right move. Because sometimes containing right away, again, depending on what it is, like if you have known ransomware happening, like, shut that down. But it may be worth investigating what's going on so that you know what to contain, right? Before just locking down a system, before analyzing what's happening. Because you might not know how far the infection has spread, and you won't know until you take a look at it. All right, while this is rebuilding, let's see what else we can pull from our evil packet capture, this Quackbot with Cobalt Strike. So we know we have this binary that's masquerading as a GIF. That's really interesting. Now, if I were to extract this I guarantee you that it would be picked up by Windows Defender on my machine. So I don't want to do that necessarily. And that's one of the reasons why we would use Security Onion or a malware analysis machine, so that we could actually, analyze this. But this does look pretty suspicious. So this happened when? This happened at February 2021, 1914 GMT. One thing that's actually really hard for me, because I like to just jump in and start finding stuff, is to back up, slow down, and start taking my time. And especially when I'm doing an investigation like this, to build a timeline. Okay? I can't stress enough how important building a timeline when you're doing an investigation like this is. Because you don't know really. You know when the alert came in, but you don't know when things started going bad. And so you'll find these artifacts and you can fill them in your timeline, but you're working forward to see what happened next until you get to the present. But then you have to work backwards to see what happened before that. And so you're going to want to have a note-taking system, whatever your note-taking system is. For my web application penetration test exam, I experimented with a new tool for note-taking that I love called Joplin. And Joplin is an open source note-taking tool. It works in Markdown, if you're used to Markdown syntax. And it'll give you a nice HTML output. This is I was demonstrating for a Try Hack Me box. But it organizes your stuff in notebooks, kind of like OneNote. Yep, Sublime Text, if that's, how you choose to live your life. I like to use VS Code for some of that. The reason I like Joplin, there are a couple of niceties that Joplin has. For one thing, the way that it handles screenshots. Here's what I mean. Let me create a new... Let's make a new... I don't know why it's moved that off the screen. Let me do a new notebook. A notebook is a collection of notes, right? So let's call it malware analysis. Okay. And then I'll make a new note. I can also make to-do lists, but I can do a new note. We'll call it Crackbot Cobalt Strike, since that's what we're working on. And then, let's say I wanted to get a screenshot of this. I'll do my Command or Windows Shift S, highlight this, and then I can actually paste that right here, and it creates a file for me right away. So I have that screenshot saved. And I can do, the rest of my stuff, like, so I really like the way this works. And the other thing that's kind of cool with Joplin is, well, for one thing, it's free and open source, so big fan. But in addition, you can set up your synchronization server. So you can do it with the file system, you can do it with OneDrive, you can do it with Nextcloud, you can do it with WebDAV if you're insane, but you can also create your own Joplin server. So if you wanted to spin that up on AWS or spin it up on DigitalOcean or something like that, you just create your own and synchronize your notes between different machines. I really, really love that feature. And it has built-in really nice themes. I'm a big Dracula fan. I like this theme. But yeah, real handy. There's a plugin ecosystem for it as well. You can also do full encryption. end-to-end encryption of your notebook. How about that? How we doing? So I've been thinking about introducing Joplin to my team as well, and here's one reason why, which may be relevant to you, Pandacat. We have a bunch of different kind of like authoritative sources for where to look up documentation, but it's kind of all over the place. Like some of it is stored in our cloud storage solution, right? Some of it's in, you know, those notes, some of it's in Word documents stored on a file share, some of it's in our CMS, right? And because, or as organizations kind of age and okay, so yeah, if you're using Box, right, if you've got Box notes someplace and you've got you know, Word docs someplace else, right? If you're, some people are using like it, right? If you're using Confluence, right? So like if you have all this stuff all over the place, and if you, especially if you've moved from like platform to platform, like if you were all on-prem and like you moved to O365 or moved to Google, right? That documentation doesn't always move over in a timely fashion. I like to have a little bit more ownership of that stuff, which is why I like doing it this way. Meaning that like I want my documentation, and this was a argument I used to get into when I was a tech director, because vendors would kind of come to the schools and be like, hey, we're going to sell you this really, really easy thing. And I'll be like, yeah, but what if we don't want to spend money on that thing anymore? We're going to lose all our stuff, or we're going to have to invest time. That's technical debt. We're going to have to invest time and labor into like extracting it out of your thing. I always felt like the move for me as a budget manager was to invest in sustainable capital assets in the long term, which usually meant well-supported open source projects, so that I could invest in those, build skills on my team so that those tools could be supported, and then use those kind of in perpetuity, rather than always feel like I'm locked into some sort of support contract with some vendor so that I can have my mission critical stuff. There's some stuff that you want to pay for, and there's some stuff that maybe you're going to pay for everything. It just depends on how. But like, there are some things that you want to pay a vendor to handle, and there are some things you want to pay to build the skills on your team so that you can handle. That's my quick take on like open source versus proprietary. But if you're in a regulated industry and you have to have certain, you know, validations or certifications for things, that may not be an option. Let's see what else we can find in here. So this was, let me get the timestamp. Let's actually just follow all the... So we know that there was some evil happening on the TCP streams, right? So let's see what else we found. Look at this. So that GIF looks legit. That's Microsoft. That's not as interesting. Let's go back to that export objects and HTTP and see what we can find. Oh, so this is the entirety of the HTTP stream. Now how... Okay. So all of that was the GIF file. right? Which obviously it's not. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at conversations between. So we'll apply that as a filter. Now let's change it from source to destination, because once the thing was on the machine, theoretically it was going to do some talkback. Now, maybe not to the same place, but also maybe. Now we have an evil domain to check out, right? luxorcred.br. Turns out it's evil. If you know that something is Cobalt Strike going in, or you know it's Meterpreter or whatever, one thing that you want to do kind of right off the bat is like Google for it. Cobalt Strike TTPs. Thanks, Cobalt Strike. Recorded Future has a pretty good write-up on some of this. It depends on what the command and control channel was for Cobalt Strike. If it was HTTPS, we'll see it here. It doesn't seem like it was, though. Or it doesn't seem like it was HTTP in this case. Or if it was, it wasn't sending out to the same IP address. Which makes sense, because the payload delivery is probably just there for people to download, and then it's going to go someplace else. So we want to see where all these folks were talking to, or where our 10.2 was speaking to. Now there's TCP. Now we have some TLS happening. And when was it happening? Because again, we know. All right, this is ready to go. We have our kind of first timeline component, right? Of February 2021, the 12th of February 2021 at 7 o'clock, 7:14 GMT. All right, not as helpful. We follow the TCP stream. Do we see anything? Okay, so this looks like Bing, so that's not as helpful. 204, I should have known that. 204 is Microsoft. Looks like some LDAP stuff going on here. DNS. All right. So we have Okay. So we have some IPs with our sources, and look at our destinations here, 2367, 210.113. And so we have some of these that we can look at as well. There are other tools, by the way, that are helpful to look at PCAPs before we get into Security Onion. Let me see if I can pull one up here. Great, you see I have The Witcher installed. Where did I put Network Miner? Well, if I have to go get it again, I will. I just didn't think I did. But we should be able to... Okay, this thing is actually ready to go here, so let's try this again. I have to set up the port forwarding rule one more time. Oh, crap. I have to delete the known hosts instance because it changed. There we go. Awesome. Where did all the space go? I made a 400 gig VDI, whatever. We're running this anyway. Ugh. Yes, I would like to continue. Eval, rate. 3. Just shut up. See, I told you. We need more than one NIC. So let me just power this down. And configure it in VirtualBox to have more than one NIC. Adapter 2 enabled, and it'll be set to the internal network. Okay. Now, I'm starting this headless, so I don't have that extra pop-up window. Okay, meanwhile, that's probably not ready to go yet. What? It changed again? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. See how it like every single thing. Security Onion is a beast. Try it one more time. Might as well just remove that from the known hosts. Alright, so we're gonna power it down again. And this time we'll get the cores. Cores correct. Processor, 4 cores. Okay. Disk space. Memory. Cores, network interfaces. I think we have everything correct now. So you might be wondering, what's the payoff for all this? At the end of the day, what you'll have is a kind of out-of-the-box elk stack that you can use to start doing SIM stuff if you don't have a SIM. You'll also have the ability to give it packet captures and grab packet captures with it, but also give it packet captures that you can use the built-in tools to analyze, which is really, really powerful. So one of the tools is Zeek, used to be known as Bro, that will take a packet capture and split it out into identifications of DNS, connection logs, right, HTTP information, and then with that you can sort of start filtering it down and understanding what your data looks like. That's also how Elk is going to look at it. And from there, you can use another tool from Active Countermeasures called Rita that takes Zeek data and looks for things like beaconing. So anything, and this is kind of why Cobalt Strike is a really good one, because the agent, the listener, is going to be beaconing home at some interval, and Rita is really good at detecting that stuff, right? Without you having to manually do any kind of parsing or statistical analysis on the packet capture, Rita will do that for you. So that's kind of what the payoff is here, if we can get this thing going. Is that all Rita can be used for? It's really what Rita is mainly used for. It'll show you DNS tunneling, and you can also query block lists, things like that. Rita is a pretty purpose-specific tool. Active Countermeasures has a bunch of other stuff too. So ADHD has the whole smash. It's kind of its own OVA. No, we're not going to create Python parsing from scratch. Although I really want to know, like, I have played with some of that stuff before, but no. And the product, by the way, that Active Countermeasure sells, AC Hunter, is pretty rad. But in order for it to work, you have to be doing real packet capture pretty much across your environment, which is sometimes a big ask. All right. Once more into the breach. Yes. Fantastic. We're not going to assume that stuff. Wait, what? Fine. I guess we will. Yeah, it's going to yell at us about DHCP, but don't worry about that. Here we go. Please set up your management NIC. So our management NIC is the first one. That's the natted one that we have connected to the internet, and the one we've done the port forward rule on. This is the other one, so we're not going to worry about that. No proxy. And then off it goes. All right. While this is installing, I guess this has turned into not so much security onion, just packet analysis, but that's okay. Let's go get network miner. I cannot believe I didn't already have this. See, there it is. So I straight up had it installed. I just couldn't freaking find it. Okay. So network miner, what is it? Network miner is a much more user-friendly way of looking at packet captures. What it will do, and it's available for Windows and Linux, we'll bring in a PCAP, and let's do that with the Cobalt Strike, and kind of break it down into hosts, destinations in a much more parsable way than what we were doing with just raw Wireshark. There's a place for raw Wireshark, absolutely, but I think you'll find that this is a very handy way of looking at things. Oh, good. Windows Defender found threats. What'd you find? Oh, because it extracted it. All right, good to know. Yeah, well, we'll let that get quarantined. So obviously it extracted the right file. And now look at what it's found here. It has extracted our hosts for us, all 103 of them. And it'll give us even the host name for them and the FQDN. So we can kind of see the types of things that we might be interested in. Files. And we can sort by whatever, the extension. And look how this thing sticks out like a sore thumb. And by the way, it gives us the hash. If we calculate the hash there, it should give us something. Okay, if we click on show metadata, it'll show us this. And if we get the... Can I copy this, please? Can we copy that hash and send it to VirusTotal to see what VirusTotal has to say about it? Yes. Doesn't see anything evil about it, but we know that it's definitely something weird. And this is where you'd want a Windows VM or something like that to execute this. Right? If we filter by size, other way, please. So icons are actually pretty huge, so that might not be totally weird. although stature.ico. Right, and it's coming from where's it coming from? Oh, wait. That was the wrong. So if I ask it to calculate the hash there, does it just give it to me on the clipboard? How does that work? Neurotoxic, thank you so much for the sub. I really appreciate it. How are we doing with that install? So this is where it says add NICs to the monitor interface. So we're going to use that other NIC as our monitor interface. That's the one that we'd be listening for log ingestion or for packet captures, things like that. Okay. Automatic patching, all good. We'll leave that as a default for now. What do we want to enable? We want to enable Grafana for system monitoring. I don't think we need OS query at the moment. Yeah, we'll leave that off. Waza, the Hive, Playbook, Strelka. Okay, is it just me, or does Strelka sound like a Witcher monster? Maybe it is. Striga is a Witcher monster. Also one in, like, Polish folklore, I think, which is why it was in The Witcher. Do I want to keep the default Docker IP range? Yeah. Please enter an email address to create an administrator account for the web interface. All right. Yes, if you ever do have questions, you can email me there. It's fine. Okay. Use IP address to access the web interface. Yes. Yeah. That's fine. We're going to put in 0000 for now, just because I want everybody to be able to... My local network, I don't want to have to mess with this. Yes, we're going to set up a CVAL. All right, making progress. Back to Network Miner. Images. Nothing. Credentials. It found some credentials. Look at this. It will... Network Miner extracts Kerberos hashes from packet captures. So be careful with that, okay? DNS, always good to look at. We want to see what DNS was getting called. This, DNS is really great, I think, for starting to build the timeline, because it's, I think, one of the most, if it's a weird domain that you're worried about, really easy place to start. So you can see here that our first stop was here at 1914, February 12th, 7:14 p.m. Now, here's the deal. That's where we found this image 1 second later. Okay? So now we have a new part. a new part of the timeline. So for 38, we'd say DNS to, what was that? luxstorecred.com.br. Now, we don't know yet how the user got there, but we know that's weird, and we know that it corresponds to that weird GIF that we found. Okay? Then, time goes on. Do we start seeing any other weird domains? A lot of Microsoft, DigiCert, CDNs. Now, CDNs could be evil. Okay, don't ignore those. They can be. Good attackers are going to use CDNs to deliver their stuff. So there's some Heroku. It's entirely possible that somebody would host something evil on Heroku, so that's possible. Okay. This to me is a flag right here. So I'm actually gonna put the Heroku on here. And let me tell you why. Can I do anything with this? No. Can't copy any fields? That's really a pain. Okay, so nagano19599.heroku.herokussl.com. So that's later, right? That's at 2012. Again, just building this timeline. Uh, 1257. And we found the Nagano 19599.herokussl.com. And api.ipify.org. Does anybody know why I'm thinking that that's weird? The IPFI in particular? It might not be weird, but API.IPFI is a thing that'll just get your public IP address. Yeah, it's an API call, and it's an API that gets the requester's public IP address. And even if it's adware, I don't like anything that's trying to do that. Plus, you're getting it from the web server anyway. So that's weird, and it keeps happening. And it keeps happening in the same pattern, right? That happens together each time. Now we've got some AWS stuff going on as well, which may also be a little bit interesting, but we just don't know yet. Any parameters? This is cool. These are either URL parameters. Will it be a NATed IP? So yeah, well, it depends on where it's coming from. You know what I mean? So like, if I'm doing that, if I'm making the call to api.ipfi.org from like my home network, just say like a flat network, and it goes through my ISP's router, it'll be my ISP's public IP for my router, right? Or for my cable modem or whatever. That's what it'll get. If it's a more complicated enterprise environment, right, it's going through a firewall, it's going through that, right, then that's what you're going to get, because it's whatever the last part of the edge was before it hits the internet. All right, so we've got parameters here. A lot of NetBIOS stuff. Anomalies. So we do have some anomalies detected. Possible ARP spoofing, that's interesting. Okay. Obviously, we had that error when we found the 1002.gif because it wasn't a real image. Ah, so that's statrr.ico, probably also not really an icon file. Let's go back over to... I closed Wireshark? That was dumb. Let's look at statrr.ico. So it's not an MZ necessarily. What are the first bytes? Let's look at it in hex. FCE8. Now, I don't know off the top of my head. So we're going to look at... Nope, wrong thing. List of file signatures. Are you kidding me? All right, so it's not a thing. Unless... No, sorry, just kidding. This is the start, I actually think. Right here. So let's try D3. Nope. So what is this thing? We don't know. If we extract it, we might find out. Is there anything in the ASCII that we can just look at that might indicate what it is? It's binary data, so maybe not. It's weird. So if we were to extract that and analyze it, we might be able to find something. What else did Network Miner find it for us? Yeah, okay, so then there were errors that Network Miner encountered when it was trying to write to stuff because Defender caught it and killed it. So 192.185.164.99. Let's find that in our hosts here. What do we know about it? It sent 163 packets and it received 104. So it received 104. That's not a lot, meaning it's probably not our C2 server. Now what about this guy, 199.1.19.164.99? So this sent, look at this. This is kind of a lot. Look at how many bytes it sent. So I might look this one up to see what was going on. And I can also I'll use that in Wireshark. I can go back and forth between these two and check those out. So I might go back over to Wireshark and see what's up there. And this is where, you know, Cobalt Strike is actually doing something real. Because if it's over TLS, this is the part where, you know, your packet capture starts to mean less because you don't have access to the data if it's over raw HTTP, or if it's over an encrypted channel. But VirusTotal knows about it. You know what? Let me sign in to my VirusTotal account because it might be of value here. But they're free, by the way, these VirusTotal accounts, so you should get one. Hey, Security Onion, how you doing, buddy? Still taking forever? Here's what's going to happen. We're going to get this set up, and I'm going to do a real Security Onion breakdown next weekend, okay? So, sorry that we're going to have to wait a week on that, but it just took more time to get set up than I was banking on. And I even tried to get it set up before we went. But that's how that goes. But at least we're doing some good stuff with this packet capture analysis. So that's kind of fun. All right, so VirusTotal has it. What does it have it as? Let's read some VirusTotal details. So there's reports of it on the internet. Okay, there's a relationship to an Excel spreadsheet. So that might be something for us to look for. I love these graph summaries. And let's see what the community has to say. This IOC was found in a paste for Quackbot, which we kind of knew from the malware traffic, right? And let's take a look at the graph. Oh, I love this thing so much. So, what do we got? Root node. We've got a DLL. We've got an Excel spreadsheet. And we knew that from here. This is the Excel spreadsheet that it's related to. Which appears to be a downloader. So if we look at the files, this might be worth checking out. Certificates. Let's filter Sir. I can't negate it. SMB? That's weird. Okay, we've got these cab files. And then here. And here's the conversation with that. So this, I'm going to tell you right now, this looks to me like command and control traffic. It's over TLS, right? It's happening fairly regularly. And this is where your kind of base level detections aren't going to, do it for you. Because this is happening over port 443. This is where something like a beacon detection is going to be important for you. Or some other kind of rule that gets at what you need. Now, I will try. We'll see what happens. Defender will... I'm not going to, run anything here. I will try to extract that icon file and see what we can do with it. Also notice that there were SMB files as well. Yeah, this is sysvol stuff. That's not interesting. Let's look at the HTTP stuff. Export objects, HTTP. Let's look at this icon, because we know that this is evil. But I want to find out what this icon is. And we'll also, actually, we'll look at these too. Interestingly, we didn't see those in Network Miner. I'll clear the filter here. We have base 64 encoded information being sent to this. So that looks weird. Okay, it's nothing, but it's not anything we could decode that way, but it might still be relevant. So it looks like some of our information might be hosted on AWS, and that might be the downloader to get the agent on the system. Interesting that was over HTTP. That's the entirety of the HTTP stream, where we posted this data. Pretty weird. We look at it as a TCP stream. Do we get anything better? Nope, not really. And there was another one here, right? Clear that filter. This was the other one, I think. Same sort of deal. But let's look at that icon. If we can. Aquarius. Okay, now I'm going to use so it's just data. See if we can pull out anything. Not really. But it's just data. I don't think it's an icon file, and I'm not about to open it. So it's weird, though. And it's all coming from Amazon, which indicates that we have to be aware of these Amazons here, and elb.amazon AWS. Let's go look at our hosts to see where that... So it looks like we have a lot going on here. That's exactly what I'm thinking, Neurotoxin. It's that the C2... And also, it's interesting that the host is... So we've got dynamic DNS going on here, right? Because we've got multiple IPs, same domain names. What's also funny is, you know, the thing with Heroku is that Heroku is hosted on AWS, right? So, like, when you spin up a Heroku, I forget what they call them, like a project, you're essentially, you're spinning up an AWS machine, right? So that makes sense. But yeah. I think what we're going to do is call it there for today. We've been on for a couple hours, and this still has a way to go before we can do anything cool with Security Onion. So I think that's going to be it for today. And then, so we'll come back next week and have Security Onion up and running. I'll make sure of it. And we can start to do cool stuff like we'll import PCAPs, and we'll also see if we can do some log ingestion. How about that? Where we can actually send data to our Elk stack from maybe some of our Windows machines. Hey, Orbital, thank you so much for the sub. Really appreciate it. So for now, have a great weekend. I am going to be back on Tuesday doing some Red Team stuff. And be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and happy hacking, everybody. Take care. Actually, let's see if we can send you someplace before we get out of here. Let me see if there's a raid, someplace we can raid. Is there anybody online? Yes, Tiberius is online. All right. So if you want to see some cool Red Team stuff going on, let's go check out Tiberius. Enjoy.